Facebook turns 10 with more than 1 billion users around the world. So what's not to like? Is further global success just a click away, or is the fun fading in the face of cooler competitors? This is Inside Story. At 1.2 billion people, we could easily be talking about the entire population of India. But for this Inside Story, we're focusing on the phenomenon that's Facebook. Hello, I'm Darine Abogado. Like all good ideas, it was a simple one. Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg's mission was to make the world more open and more connected. 10 years later, he's gone a long way to achieving that. It's estimated that more than 20% of all time spent on the internet is spent on Facebook. What's the downsides, and how much of a problem is privacy? And are we in danger of losing the skill and the will to communicate in person? Is the online love affair even there? Here's Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds.
Conceived in a college dorm room a decade ago, Facebook has become a behemoth, but a growing number of teenagers have lost interest. DJ Saul of iStrategy Labs has studied Facebook's changing demographics.
What we found was that in the last 3 years, there are 3 million fewer teenagers, and we define that in this instance as 13 to 17-year-olds, with 18 to 24 being the next demographic up. So there's a decline in both, and specifically a 25% decline amongst addressable teenagers in Facebook advertising.
To find out what happened, we went right to the source, a bunch of cool kids hanging out after school.
This whole way where everybody can get a hold of you no matter what, and like they just know everything about your life. Like, I don't know, I don't like it anymore. I like to have my own life and have the ability to choose who comments on it or not, you know? I feel like with Facebook, you lose that.
Snapchat, Pinterest, and of course Twitter are the social media of choice for this generation.
Well, it used to be kind of secret from my family, like, oh, what are you doing on Facebook? And now they actually are a part of it, so it's like they can see everything you're doing. Sometimes, oh, you're out drinking here, oh, thanks, Mum, yeah.
In fact, the biggest increase in Facebook users during recent years has been among people aged 55 and older. Now that's like totally uncool.
I think a huge part of that just has to be attributed to the rise of parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles who are on the platform and commenting on photos that teens and young people are posting and engaging in the way that, you know, advertisers want to see people engaging in Facebook, but that's not what teens are looking for.
What teens are looking for is a parent-free zone online.
Older people want to know what you're doing. They want to like check what you're doing. You don't do anything bad.
And many teens who still use Facebook are careful to keep the grown-ups out of the loop.
I'm not friends with my dad on Facebook, although he does have an account.
Mom and Dad now have Facebook accounts, but as always, they haven't got a clue. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Los Angeles.
To discuss this, let's bring in our guests. With me here in Doha is Nino Kader. He's the CEO of Spark Digital Advertising and Social Media Agency. In London is Matt Rhodes. Matt is a digital director at Fresh Minds. That's an online strategy consultancy. Welcome to you both to Inside Story. Nino, so it really is a phenomenon, isn't it? Facebook celebrating 10 years old. It has more than 1 billion users a month. What do you attribute its success to?
Innovation. I think that they continue to try different things. They've had a lot of successes. They've had a few failures, like the Facebook phone, for example. But they just keep trying and they keep going forward. Having 1 billion plus users now is more than any other company of its type that's out there.
Matt, do you agree with Nino that it's innovation? Is it something else? What is it?
I think it is innovation. I also think they've been very successful globally. If you look, they're the biggest social network in every market now except for Russia, China and Iran, which is a scale nobody else has.
Nino, we heard in our reporter's package, Rob Reynolds, a short while ago, someone he had interviewed, a kid he had interviewed, saying that parents are on Facebook now and this is not cool anymore. So is it a case that as Facebook gets older, it's celebrating 10 years of age, So does its core audience? I mean, is this the pattern?
Yes, but I also think as kids get older, they'll probably get on Facebook. Right now, a lot of them are on Instagram, but Facebook still gets to play in that arena since they bought Instagram.
And Matt, do you think this is detrimental to the growth of Facebook now that an older generation is coming on, and it seems that the younger generation are going off Facebook somewhat?
I mean, not necessarily. If you look at a really useful survey done by the Global Web Index, which is a kind of a global survey of use, you're at 88% of teens in the world, excluding China, have a Facebook account. Now that to me feels very much like that market is completely penetrated. You know, this was a site that started with college-aged people. It's now having to, if you like, kind of catch up in the older demographics. You know, the fastest growing demographic on Facebook now is 65 plus, not necessarily because the site is now better suited to them, just because they weren't there originally and they're kind of catching up. So I'm not sure I necessarily believe the discussion that teens are abandoning Facebook. I think, as the other speaker says, there are other sites and other ways people are using tools and devices to talk to each other. They're not necessarily abandoning Facebook.
Look, Matt, I mean, you mentioned an issue of a survey. Let me put this one to you. It was done by consultancy iStrategy Lab study, and in fact, it was using Facebook's own social data research. It found that 3 million teenagers over in the United States left Facebook over the past 3 years. So what do you make of that?
Well, like I say, once you're in the States, there are 89% penetration of the teen audience have an account. And I think there's an interesting kind of point around data, which is the way we now use Facebook. So a lot of people will use Facebook without necessarily realizing it. You know, they might share something on Instagram, technically they're using Facebook. They might log into a website using Facebook, technically they're using Facebook. And I think we're seeing a shift, you know, we're seeing a shift with the new app they launched in the States yesterday, Paper, to finding other ways for essentially users to have a relationship with Facebook without necessarily going to facebook.com.
Nino, Matt is talking about a shift in Facebook. So does that mean that Facebook is kind of worried in a way and it needs to find other alternatives to keep users?
Well, I think everyone's worried about what teens are going to do because it seems that they predict the future. But in this case, with Facebook having over 1 billion users, the growth might not be at the same pace it's been over the last 10 years, but nothing else has this many users. And so I think you're going to see other ways that Facebook will appease that audience with, for example, as the other speaker mentioned, the new app called Paper, which is essentially...
Tell us about that app.
It's essentially a way for you to customize news each day. So it'll give you another reason to use a Facebook product on a daily basis. So you'll be able to, with your phone, swipe and choose different types and topics of news. So each day you'll be, up to date and kind of feel plugged in.
Another issue that's often addressed, Nino, when it comes to Facebook is an issue of privacy. I mean, how do you think Facebook has fared so far with privacy?
They've made a lot of missteps along the way, but
right.
I think everyone today knows that if you go on Facebook, a lot of the things that you're going to do is going to be shown to advertisers, not in aggregate, not personally, and that you'll be shown ads because Facebook is, after all, a free service. Google, on the other hand, has a much bigger ad network, and they do a lot more invasive tracking in terms of privacy and how you use the web than Facebook. Facebook's pretty much telling advertisers.
So what you're saying is that Facebook has not been intrusive in its use of ads?
Well, what they're doing is they're selling ads based on demographic data that you use to fill out your profile and things that you've liked. There's also a little bit more to it than that. Whereas Google does it based on your behavior, your search intent, what it is you're looking for. They sell that kind of thing to advertisers. And so and you're not really aware of it. Whereas with Facebook, you understand that you're being shown an ad for something, in particular because of your, within a certain age range and that you're a man or a woman.
Matt, on this issue of privacy and selling ads, I mean, how do you think Facebook has managed to cope with the challenge of sort of connecting people without being intrusive with the ads?
I think it's very difficult. I think the way that Facebook has grown in most markets is very much as a collection of friends. So it's not like Twitter, where you might follow lots of people you don't know because you're interested in the same topics. Whereas Facebook is very much like being together with your friends, which means that advertising in that arena is very difficult. I think within the kind of privacy space, what's challenging for some brands is that as users, as consumers, we're just getting a lot more mature about how we use services online. We're realizing who we want to share things with, what we do want to share, what we don't want to share. And we're starting to see a real trend in people completely locking down their Facebook profiles to just their friends. So 60% of people in the UK in the latest YouGov survey here in London said that people had locked down their Facebook profile just to their friends. And you're also seeing a real trend in people going back and deleting and editing the things they've said in the past that maybe now they regret. And so I think you're seeing a change in the way that users are, if you like, kind of taking ownership of their own privacy, as well as Facebook itself having to deal with kind of I guess the bigger issues, the macro issues around privacy.
Well, given its success, Facebook is not getting everything its own way. There are plenty of rivals out there in China, for example, as Craig LEESON reports now from Hong Kong.
Companies like Sina Weibo, Renren and WeChat have taken advantage of a Chinese government ban on Western platforms like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram to take hold of a massive market filled with people desperate to become connected.
It is very annoying to use Facebook in China because you must go through a proxy, but I can use WeChat or Weibo at any time.
A lot of useful information from social media can spread freely, but in China everything is blocked or filtered.
As internet users move to mobile devices for their social networking, Chinese companies like WeChat are becoming more popular. WeChat is a clone of WhatsApp and works extremely well as a mobile application. It has 600 million users across the globe, but is looking to expand that by opening its doors in Palo Alto, California. That's just down the block from Facebook. One of the problems that WeChat has, though, is that it censors Chinese content. So one of the challenges it will face is whether users are willing to sacrifice the convenience of its chatting platform for freedom of speech. Craig LEESON, Al Jazeera, Hong Kong.
Joining us now from New Delhi is PAVAN DUGGAL. He's an advocate of the Supreme Court of India and the cybercrime specialist. PAVAN, we heard our reporter Craig LEESON in his report saying that there are plenty of rivals out there now to Facebook. So does that apply to where you are in India?
Surely, I think Indian space in the mobile ecosystem is a very dynamically changing space. And what is felt in India is that Facebook has not responded with that kind of speed that it was expected to respond in the mobile ecosystem. Consequently, these new kinds of mobile apps are already beginning to take a chunk of the market share. So WeChat is one such player. Similarly, WhatsApp has apparently taken Indians and their imagination by complete surprise, and consequently we are having millions of WhatsApp users in our own country. This does not mean that the Facebook is completely obsolete, not at all. Large number of Indians still use Facebook.
Right, but hang on a second. I mean, you said that people in India haven't responded that quickly to Facebook as other parts of the world. But according to some research that I have read, it is saying that India is expected to overtake the US, in fact, as the country with the most Facebook users in 2014. So do you not agree with that, or do you agree? And how can India do that?
I was saying that the kind of speed with which Facebook was expected to launch and move in the mobile ecosystem, Facebook has apparently not so done. And that's the reason why competition has already come up and filled up spaces. But yes, Facebook continues to be extremely popular, more so amongst Indians. In fact, Facebook culture is like the normal culture in India. But that's where the concerns begin to start emerging, because large number of areas Facebook is not seen to be compliant with Indian law. Under the Indian cyber law, being the Indian Information Technology Act 2000, Facebook is an intermediary. It is mandated to exercise due diligence under the law. It is further mandated to put up reasonable security practices and procedures so as to protect the confidentiality of data. However, the Facebook operations in India are showing that none of these compliances have been done up to the mark. And given the fact that India does not have a dedicated law on privacy, and given the fact that distaste of Facebook to privacy, we are beginning to see large chunks and millions of Indians and their privacy being put up to stake and being potentially exposed to undesirable consequences.
So what are you seeing, according to what you're saying, is that affecting, or will it affect, the growth of Facebook and the number of users logging on to the site in India?
The way it's currently happening, some of these mobile applications like WhatsApp are becoming extremely popular, even pipping Facebook in some of the urban and metropolitan areas. However, Facebook is continuing to become more popular in the range of 25 to 50 years within India. So it's indeed a paradox that while what began as a phenomenon for the teens is now more being engulfed and being embraced by adults, but clearly in the Indian market, unless Facebook really competes and come up with the exact value additions that other mobile applications bring on the table, like WhatsApp and WeChat and Line, clearly there's going to be a big deficit in the numbers of Facebook users in India.
And Nino, studying Facebook over the past 10 years, do you think that it can actually come up with tailored sort of products like what our guest from India is saying, according to the Indian market and other markets as well?
Well, a few months ago, they came out with Facebook for non-smartphones. So for thousands of different kinds of phones that wouldn't normally have Facebook on them. And so they're trying to address the 2/3 of the world that don't have internet access and are going to be using mobile phones more exclusively and trying to get them to experience Facebook.
Matt, how real, in your opinion, is this threat from local competitors in countries to Facebook?
I think what we're seeing is people using a multitude of different tools. So rather than where a few years ago, 5 years ago maybe, Facebook would be the tool you would use to message your friends, to share photos, to share videos, to read articles. I think now we're becoming more adept at using different tools for different things. So WhatsApp, which sent 19 billion messages globally last year, so that's more than twice as many SMSs that were sent globally, is now really the predominant tool for messaging. So it's not really a place for Facebook to play in that space because people use WhatsApp for that. You know, Facebook obviously own Instagram, and that's a photo sharing app. Kind of there's good video sharing apps coming on board. And so I think maybe rather than
but do you see Facebook delving into that space?
Well, there's a couple of ways Facebook delve into. There's probably 3 ways Facebook delve into that space. One, they're quite good at buying stuff. So they bought Instagram. They've got quite a lot of capital to do that kind of thing. 2 is they're a platform for people to discover this other content. You know, the vast majority of video content you see on Facebook probably isn't Facebook video, it's probably on YouTube and just being shared onto there. So it's actually Google content, if you like, being shared into Facebook and consumed in Facebook. And it'll be interesting to see how they adapt and develop to the messaging apps like WhatsApp and find ways to integrate maybe that kind of activity into their platform. So Facebook can both provide these services, but also just provide the space you go to consume them and enjoy them.
Nino, just to pick up on what Matt's first point was that Facebook's actually good at buying stuff. So do you agree with that? Are they going to buy their way into these various spaces?
Yeah, I think they can, and they can also build stuff in-house. They recently tried to buy Snapchat for $3 billion and were turned down. So that's something that that Facebook can create on its own if it wanted to. But one of the areas I think that you'll see a lot more growth at Facebook is in terms of advertising revenue.
Right.
They've really started to figure out how to be more attractive to advertisers. So our company, SparkDigi, we manage Facebook pages for lots of different businesses. And as of a few months ago, we saw that the advertising platform on Facebook, they made a lot of changes to make it a lot easier to advertise. And as a result, we've been spending a lot more money on Facebook as well. And I think you're seeing that across the board.
And on the issue of revenue, Nino, they are they're making records actually in revenue, Facebook. So what do you put that down to? Is it innovation?
A few months ago, we've been doing a lot of advertising on Facebook for several years now, but a few months ago we saw that they made the advertising tool a lot easier to use. They have a thing where you can boost different posts to show up higher in people's news feeds and whatnot. So as a result, we've been advertising a lot more for the companies that we represent, and I think others have been doing that as well.
Matt, your take on the revenue?
So, I mean, I agree. I also think Facebook have got better at offering advertising opportunities that feel less intrusive. So they're things that people want to read about, and that's good for everybody. I think there's a broader point on revenue, which goes back to our first point about teens using Facebook, which is if you want to boost your advertising, then maybe teens aren't the audience you want to go for. There's some good research done recently which showed that whilst teens are the cheapest to advertise to on Facebook, they generate nowhere near as much revenue for the brands that advertise as your 45 to 54-year-olds.
Right,
so I
okay.
think Facebook looking to boost this up.
Right, so this appeal that we were speaking about a short while ago on grown-ups now on Facebook, I mean, how much does that represent, how much is that key to generating revenue and profit for Facebook?
I mean, for me, I think that's one of the real reasons why that's a big growth area for Facebook in terms of age, because your people in their 30s and 40s and 50s are the people with the money to spend. A lot of the advertising you see on Facebook is kind of direct response. It's kind of click here and buy now. Here's an offer. Here's something to buy. So they want people with the income to be able to purchase, and then you can charge more for the advertising. Then you can better target people. Whereas your teens, maybe Facebook isn't the space to advertise to them because they just don't have the disposable income to really kind of follow through and purchase these products. And so I see that as a real reason why Facebook would focus on that just slightly older demographic, where the money is, if you like.
Pavan, I mean, there are several shifts going on when it comes to Facebook, according to this discussion, at least, that we're having. And one of those in India, and that was mentioned a short while ago, was that there really is a phenomenon going on in your country where people are using Facebook on non-smartphones, using mobiles. Why is that?
This is so because India has already leapfrogged from the PC generation onto the mobile generation. We have, as per December 2013 figures, 63% of all Indians who are online use the mobile devices for the purposes of accessing the internet and social media. So it's not surprising that large number of Indians who are on Facebook actually use the Facebook app and also use their mobile devices for the purposes of going on to Facebook. Now the recent news that's come up from Kaspersky about the mobile app of Facebook actually on Android devices reading on your SMSs is slightly disturbing in a country like India, where large number of Indians still save a lot of their confidential, personal and professional information on their own mobiles. So I think this is where the future is going to be, but there are large number of legal, policy and regulatory challenges that in a specific context of India, Facebook is likely to face as time passes by.
Well, what do you, our Al Jazeera Facebook followers, think of all this? You may have liked it. Now, though, do you love it or hate it? Fatima Hardy has posted, "I love that we get in touch with so many people who we've lost contact with for ages." And Abdul Muttalib Abdulaziz says, "I don't really hate anything about Facebook. I believe any disadvantages are a result of the way you use it." And Stephen Nigerian tells us Facebook seems to eliminate physical social interaction with virtual social interaction, which is really not good. And Basir Mohammadi adds, "My social life was much better 10 years ago than now. I feel sorry for those who will join Facebook in the future." So those are just some comments that we've gotten from our followers. Nino, one such comment, I think the gentleman was referring to perhaps a lack of skill when it comes to communicating with people face to face. Are we losing that skill and the will to communicate face to face with Facebook and all the other social media platforms?
There's two sides to that coin. So yes, while I can see that argument, I can also see that you get to meet more people that you wouldn't normally have met by going online. People with similar interests, friends of friends, and things like that. For me personally, having moved from Washington to Doha recently, Facebook is a godsend because that's how I'm still staying in touch with all my friends back east without without having to travel there all the time.
All right, we'll leave it there on that note. Thank you very much, Nino Kader, for joining us on Inside Story. In London, Matt Rhodes, thank you to you as well. And over in New Delhi, Pavan Dubal, we appreciate your time with us on Inside Story on Al Jazeera. And please keep your comments coming about Facebook on Facebook. The address is on your screen now. I'm Darina Abougeda. Thanks for watching from me and the whole team. Goodbye for now.